morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday School. We're going to continue our series on the Psalms this morning and talk about Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3. Let me read that for us as we get started. I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the desolate pit, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. So today we're going to talk a little bit about hope. Hope is the new sermon series we're about to enter into as we start to come back together in person. And so my lessons are going to mirror what Pastor Stephen's talking about. And so we are going to talk about hope. And some of these words, I just want to clarify some of the words in this psalm that might be a little bit more difficult to understand. The first one is a desolate pit. So we know what a pit is, but desolate can kind of be a hard word to understand. So it can mean a pit of despair, a pit of death, a pit of destruction, a ditch, a horrible pit, and a slimy pit. So basically, it is a pit that's very difficult to get out of. So God it's a psalm of David, drew David up from the pit. And then out of the miry bog. And that basically is like a sinkhole, like a mud pit that sucks you in and you can't get out, can't get your feet out of it. So God was able to, and it's imagery, it's words used to help us understand truly what God's capable of doing. So basically what David is saying here, that God was able to get him up out of things that he didn't think he couldn't get out of on his own. He couldn't get himself out of the desolate pit, the pit of despair, death, and destruction. He couldn't get himself out of the sinkhole, the mud pit, the muddy mess that he is stuck in. He was stuck in the pit and stuck in the bog and couldn't get out. And so that is what God's power is about. Once we are in those places that we don't think that we can get out of by ourselves, God is there to raise us up, to set our feet upon a rock so that we can take secure steps, so that we can move forward, that we can keep trudging on the path that God's leading us down. So this is a psalm of hope. We hope that God is always with us, even though we truly know that God is always with us. We hope that in those times that seem scary, that seem like we're never going to get out, that seem like we will just be stuck, that God will help us and be there for us as we are trying to get out and continue to pursue the life that God wants us to live. And so, like verse 3 says, that he put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise. So once God delivered David from the hard times in which he thought he was stuck in and couldn't get out of, he sang praise to God. He gave thanks to God. He told God how grateful he was, that he was able to be delivered and sent forth from the difficult times that he was in. And the end of verse 3 says, many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. And that's something that we all need to do, that we might be scared. There's something before us that we are scared of. And there's something before us that we know that we are going to have to deal with, that we are going to have to do. And we know that that's where God might be leading us, and we don't know how to tackle it on our own. So know that God is always with you. And God asks us to put all of our trust in him. So we see something and we might be scared, and we put all of our trust in God, especially after we know that God has been with us all of our lives, and he has gotten us through everything that we have been through, that God has been there in the times that have been difficult, in times that we didn't think that we were going to get out of on our own. And so I would invite you all to read these three verses on your own this week. It's Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3. So to think about that and think about the hope that you have in God, the trust that you have in God, and how you can use that to move forward every single day.